The dog barked madly at a vending machine at the airport. What the police found brought millions to tears. Welcome back to Stories TRUEWAY. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And let's dive right into the story. The afternoon buzzed with movement inside Denver International Airport as travelers hurried through Terminal B, dragging suitcases, scrolling through their phones, or sipping overpriced coffee. Overhead, intercom announcements crackled, reminding passengers to stay vigilant and report any suspicious activity. Everything seemed routine until a sharp, insistent bark sliced through the hum of airport noise like a knife. Heads turned. Conversations halted mid-sentence. Standing near Gate 17, Molly, a highly trained German Shepherd from the K9 unit, had locked onto something. Her body was tense, muscles coiled like a spring, her ears pinned forward in unwavering focus. Beside her, Officer William Gardner, her handler and partner for over 5 years, felt a familiar rush of adrenaline surge through him. Molly never false alerted. Whatever had caught her attention was real. He crouched beside her, his hand pressing gently against the harness strapped across her shoulders. "What is it, girl?" he murmured, voice low but urgent. Molly responded with another sharp bark, her nose nearly pressed to the floor as she began scratching frantically at the tiles. Growling low in her throat, William followed her gaze. The vending machine, a seemingly ordinary structure, stocked with rows of snacks, candy, and sodas, but Molly's reaction told him it was anything but normal. His pulse quickened. His instincts, honed by years on the force, screamed at him that something was very, very wrong. With a flick of his wrist, he grabbed his radio and pressed the call button. "This is Officer Gardner, K9 alert in Terminal B. Requesting backup at the vending machine by Gate 17. Possible threat." His tone was calm, steady, the kind of voice shaped by years of handling emergencies. But inside, his nerves were already coiled tight. Passengers nearby had started to notice. Some stood frozen, watching, while others whispered nervously, their eyes darting between the barking dog and the vending machine. A man leaned toward his companion, voice hushed but tinged with panic. "Do you think it's a bomb?" William's eyes flicked up at the growing crowd. Not good. The last thing he needed was mass panic. Raising a firm hand, he gestured for people to step back. "Please clear the area," he instructed, firm, but not alarming. Passengers hesitated, then began shuffling away, some reluctantly, others recording on their phones, ignoring the murmurs around him. William turned his attention back to the vending machine. Carefully, he pulled out his flashlight, shining it through the transparent glass, scanning each compartment. First, nothing. Just the usual lineup of chips, candy bars, and soda cans. But then his beam of light caught something. Near the bottom shelf, tucked behind a row of snack bags, was a faint, metallic glint. His stomach tightened. It wasn't part of the machine, and it didn't belong there. Then a new detail, a smell. It hit him subtly at first, then stronger, a sharp, metallic odor with a strange, sour undertone. William instinctively took a step back. Molly's barking intensified, her front paws scraping the ground, her growls turning more aggressive. William's fingers hovered over his radio again. This wasn't just an abandoned bag or a misplaced item. This was something deliberately hidden. He swallowed hard, pressed the button, and spoke. Possible suspicious device detected. Requesting bomb squad and immediate perimeter lockdown. His voice remained calm, but now there was a hard edge to it. The kind that meant this was serious. Within seconds, airport security agents began cordoning off the area, directing passengers away from the vending machine. The once lively terminal now felt eerily quiet, save for the occasional crackle of radios and the distant murmur of announcements over the loudspeaker. William's heart pounded, but his hands remained steady. He crouched beside Molly, running a hand over her back. "You've never been wrong before, girl," he whispered. Her only response was a low, guttural growl. her eyes never leaving the vending machine. Whatever was inside, they were about to find out. And deep in his gut, William knew this was just the beginning. The tension in Terminal B was suffocating. The usual airport hum had been replaced by an unsettling silence, broken only by the occasional crackle of security radios and the soft shuffling of agents moving into position. Officer William Gardner stood rigid, his pulse hammering in his ears as he watched the bomb squad technician approach the vending machine. Clad in a thick protective suit, his movements slow and methodical. Nearby, Molly sat stone still, her ears perked, her eyes fixed on the machine with an intensity that sent a chill down William's spine. Whatever was inside, she knew it didn't belong. William's throat was dry as he watched the technician slip a small robotic camera beneath the vending machine. The monitor flickered to life. A grainy feed appeared, black and white, full of shadows showing the cluttered interior of the vending machine. Rows of snack bags, soda cans, and candy bars lined the shelves. Perfectly normal. But then, a shape, a metallic object. The camera zoomed in. At the bottom shelf, half hidden behind a row of chips, was a small, metallic box, crudely wrapped in black electrical tape. Thin, wiry strands protruded from the edges, too fragile to be random, too intentional to be ignored. A cold weight settled in William's stomach. This wasn't a forgotten wallet or a lost phone. This was deliberate. Beside him, Sergeant Blake, the bomb squad leader, frowned at the screen. "Is that what I think it is?" William asked, his voice low but tight. Blake didn't answer immediately. He leaned closer, his face illuminated by the dim glow of the screen. Then he let out a slow exhale. "It's hard to say just yet," he muttered. "Could be a hoax. Could be real. Either way, we can't take any chances." He turned to his team, barking orders. "Prepare for extraction. We neutralize this now." As the technicians moved in, William couldn't shake the unease crawling up his spine. Molly had gone completely silent, her body still tense, her breathing slow and deliberate. He knew that look. She wasn't just watching. She was waiting. Then, "Hold up." One of the bomb techs called out, "There's something else in here." The words sent a fresh surge of adrenaline through William's veins. The camera feed shifted, panning slightly past the metallic box. And there, partially obscured in the shadows, was something unexpected. A sealed envelope, wedged between the vending machine wall and the tape device. But it wasn't just any envelope. The ink was smeared, but the message was clear, written in jagged, uneven handwriting. "To those who find this." A cold shudder ran through William's body. The bomb squad may have been dealing with the metallic box, but something about that envelope felt just as dangerous. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't misplaced mail or random trash. Someone had left it there, intentionally, for him to find. William clenched his jaw and turned to Blake. "I need that letter." Blake hesitated, his eyes narrowing. "Gardner, we focus on the device first." William nodded, but deep down, he already knew. The box might be the immediate danger, but that letter, that was the real message. And something told him whoever left it wasn't done yet. The envelope sat on the metal table in the TSA security office, its edges worn, its surface smudged with faint streaks of dirt from where it had been wedged behind the vending machine. William stared at it, his gut twisting with unease. "To those who find this." The jagged, uneven handwriting seemed rushed, almost desperate, as if the writer had scrawled it in a hurry. Outside, the bomb squad was still working to neutralize the metallic device. But William had a feeling that whatever was in this letter was far more dangerous than any explosive. He exhaled sharply, then grabbed a pair of gloves and carefully peeled open the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of folded paper, creased and slightly crumpled. For a second, William hesitated. Then he unfolded it. His eyes locked onto the first line. "This is not the end. It's the beginning." A chill slid down his spine. The handwriting was the same, uneven, almost shaky, but every letter was etched with purpose. William kept reading, his breath growing shallower with each line. They are watching. We see what you hide. Your safety is an illusion. The words dug into him like ice. The phrasing wasn't just cryptic, it was calculated, designed to unsettle. William's grip on the paper tightened. Then he read the final line. This is only one. There will be more. His heart hammered against his ribs. More? William looked up, locking eyes with Sergeant Blake, who had been reading over his shoulder. What the hell does that mean? Blake muttered. William didn't answer right away. He was already thinking ahead, his mind racing through every possibility, every angle. This wasn't a threat, not in the traditional sense. It was a message. Someone had planted the envelope, knowing it would be found. They wanted him to read it. They wanted him to follow the trail. The question was, why? Suddenly, the forensic technician, Rachel, rushed into the room, a folder clutched in her hands. You need to see this, she said, her voice edged with urgency. She placed a blacklight scanner on the table. We ran the envelope through ultraviolet light, she continued, flipping open the folder. There was something else hidden in the ink, something you wouldn't see with the naked eye. She handed William a photograph. His stomach dropped. Beneath the message, under ultraviolet exposure, more words had appeared, etched faintly into the paper like ghostly whispers. The new message was short, but it was enough to send a cold wave of dread crashing through him. You're looking in the wrong place. William stared at the words, his breath caught in his throat. This wasn't just a riddle. It was a challenge. Someone was toying with them, leading them down a trail of misdirection. The vending machine hadn't been the real target, it was a decoy. And if that was true, then the real danger was still out there, waiting, watching, and ready to strike again. The words, "You're looking in the wrong place," still echoed in William's mind as he stood outside Terminal B. His breath visible in the cold evening air. He knew that feeling. It was the same gut-wrenching instinct that had saved his life before, the realization that he was being led somewhere, but not where he needed to be. Molly paced beside him, her ears twitching, her sharp eyes scanning the terminal entrance. She sensed it too. "All right, girl," William murmured, tightening his grip on her leash. "If we're looking in the wrong place, let's find the right one." He gave her a simple command. "Search." Molly took off, nose to the ground, weaving through the perimeter of the now secured vending machine area. She didn't stop, didn't hesitate. Instead, she pulled hard toward something just a few steps away. William's pulse spiked as she zeroed in on a public trash can, just 10 feet from the vending machine. She froze. Then, with an urgency he had never seen before, she started scratching at its base. William didn't wait. He knelt beside her, pulling a flashlight from his belt and running the beam along the trash can's metal frame. At first glance, it looked ordinary. Then he saw it. The bottom panel had been tampered with. William's blood ran cold. "I need a toolkit over here," he barked into his radio. "Now." Within minutes, an airport security officer handed him a screwdriver. With steady hands, William loosened the panel and carefully removed the base of the trash can. Inside was a black duffel bag. A fresh wave of adrenaline surged through him. This was it. With cautious precision, he unzipped the bag just enough to peek inside. A second device, identical to the one hidden in the vending machine, a metallic box. Wires protruding, but no immediate sign of explosives. But that wasn't all. Beside the device, another sealed envelope, this one stamped with red wax. William's heartbeat thundered in his ears. He grabbed the envelope, staring at it as if it might burn a hole through his gloves. Then, he broke the wax seal. Inside was another letter. The handwriting was the same, jagged, erratic, as though written in a hurry. But the message was worse than before. "You found the second, but how many more are you willing to chase? Your time is running out." A cold wave of dread crashed through him. This wasn't just a game anymore. This was a warning. and whoever was behind it, they were just getting started. The dim glow of the overhead lights in the TSA briefing room cast long shadows on the walls, adding to the unease settling in William's chest. The evidence table before him was cluttered with photos, reports, and 2 sealed evidence bags, one containing the first letter from the vending machine, the other holding the second, wax-sealed note from the trash can. The words still lingered in his mind, like whispers in the dark. You found the second, but how many more are you willing to chase? Your time is running out. Sergeant Blake sat across from him, flipping through the crime scene photos. His jaw was tight, his frustration evident. This isn't adding up, Blake muttered. 2 nearly identical devices, 2 cryptic messages, but no real demands, no threats, just taunts. William leaned back, rubbing his face, exhaustion creeping into his bones. No, he corrected, not just taunts. Whoever this is, they're testing us, seeing how fast we react, how we respond. Blake looked at him sharply. You think this is a dry run? William nodded slowly. Feels like it. Then, before he could elaborate, his phone buzzed. The screen flashed with a notification. Security footage alert, Airport Terminal B. 7:21 p.m. His stomach tightened. Rachel, the forensic analyst, had been combing through security footage near the vending machine and trash can all day, trying to find their suspect. William swiped to open the message. A grainy image loaded on his screen, black and white footage from one of the few working cameras near the scene. And there he was, the man in the hood. The same figure spotted on the vending machine footage, but this time, the angle was better. He was pushing a small cart, moving with calculated precision, knowing exactly where the security blind spots were. William zoomed in, his eyes scanning every detail. The hood obscured the man's face, but something caught his attention. His left hand, a scar, faint but distinct, ran from the man's wrist up to his forearm. William's mind clicked into overdrive. That's a permanent mark, he muttered. If we can match it, we have him. Blake leaned forward, eyes locked on the screen. Run it through the database, he said. If he's been booked before, we'll find him. But then, another alert flashed on William's phone. Rachel. Her message was short. We traced the wax seal. You need to see this. Now. A cold prickle ran down William's spine. He grabbed his jacket, signaled to Molly, who immediately stood, ears perked and alert, and turned to Blake. Stay on the security footage. I'm heading to forensics. Blake nodded, but his expression was grim. Gardner, be careful. Whoever this guy is, he's leading us somewhere, and I don't think we're gonna like where it ends. William knew Blake was right, but he also knew he couldn't stop now. The pieces were falling into place, and somewhere in the shadows, the man behind it all was waiting. The air inside the forensic lab was thick with tension, the sterile smell of chemicals barely masking the unease settling over the room. Rachel stood beside the analysis table, a clipboard clutched tightly in her hands. Her face was pale, her expression a mix of urgency and concern. William stepped forward, Molly at his side, her ears perked and alert. Tell me you've got something, he said, his voice steady but edged with exhaustion. Rachel exhaled, then slid a printout across the table. A map, a blinking red dot pulsed faintly on the screen, hovering over an area on the outskirts of Denver. What am I looking at? William asked. Rachel tapped the map with her pen. That second device we found? She explained. It wasn't just a prop. It was a GPS transmitter, and it's still broadcasting. A cold shiver ran down William's spine. Broadcasting to what? Rachel hesitated. That's the part we don't know yet. She met his gaze, her fingers tightening around the clipboard. But here's the thing, William, the signal isn't random. It's moving. Deliberately. Asterisk. William's stomach dropped. Someone was still out there, watching, leading them, and now, he had a choice. Chase the signal into the unknown or risk letting the trail go cold. He didn't hesitate. Send me the coordinates, he said, already turning for the door. Rachel nodded, but before he could leave, she called after him. William. He paused. Rachel's expression darkened. Be careful. Whoever's doing this, they're not just leading you anywhere. They want you to follow. He didn't answer. He just clenched his jaw, adjusted Molly's harness, and stepped into the night. The city lights faded in the rearview mirror as William drove down the desolate highway, following the blinking signal on his dashboard screen. Molly sat in the passenger seat, her posture tense, her eyes constantly scanning the dark road ahead. The GPS led them past the outskirts of Denver, into an industrial district filled with abandoned warehouses and rusting machinery. The perfect place to disappear. William's grip on the steering wheel tightened. He knew what this was, a trap, but he also knew that if he didn't walk into it, he'd never get the answers he needed. The red dot stopped moving. He pulled the car to a halt, headlights illuminating a crumbling warehouse with shattered windows and a partially open metal door. His pulse pounded. Molly let out a low, warning growl. They had found the right place. The question was, who was waiting for them inside? The warehouse loomed ahead, its rusted metal siding groaning in the wind. A single hanging light bulb flickered above the partially open door, casting long, jagged shadows on the cracked concrete below. William killed the engine, his fingers tightening around the steering wheel as he studied the building. The signal had stopped here. Whatever or whoever was waiting inside had led him here on purpose. Beside him, Molly let out a low growl, her sharp eyes locked on the warehouse entrance. I know, girl, William muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. Something about this feels wrong. But he didn't have a choice. He had to go in. With one hand resting on his holstered weapon, he stepped out of the car. Molly followed, her body tense, every muscle in her frame ready to strike. The air was thick, the silence unnatural. With slow, deliberate steps, William pushed open the warehouse door. The metal groaned loudly, the sound echoing like a warning. Inside, a single light bulb swung from the ceiling, casting eerie shadows over the empty space. And there, in the very center of the warehouse, a table. On it, a laptop, the screen glowing faintly in the darkness. Beside it, a small speaker emitting soft static. And next to that, a third black duffel bag. William's breath hitched. Another device? Another message? His pulse pounded against his ribs as he took a cautious step forward. Then, the speaker crackled to life, and a distorted voice filled the room. Congratulations, Officer Gardner. You made it. William froze. The voice was calm. Too calm. You and your dog. Quite the team. William's hand hovered over his gun, his heartbeat roaring in his ears. Molly let out a deep, guttural growl, her tail rigid, her stance protective. Whoever this was, they had been watching them the entire time. The laptop screen flickered, and suddenly, a live video feed appeared. William's stomach dropped. It was Terminal B. The camera angle showed the crowded airport terminal, passengers moving about unaware. But in the bottom corner of the screen, a black duffel bag sat beside a vending machine. Another one, the same setup as before. The voice returned, softer now, more menacing. You were so close, but you missed it. A cold wave of dread washed over William. This was never about the warehouse. The real trap was back at the airport. The speaker crackled again. The real message begins now. Then, an alarm blared from the laptop. Piercing, urgent sound that sent William's blood running cold. He didn't need to hear another word. Move! He barked into his radio, already sprinting for the exit. Lock down Terminal B. Possible explosive device on site. Evacuate immediately. Molly bolted beside him, matching his pace as they raced back to the car. He didn't even register starting the engine. Didn't hear the tires screeching against the pavement. The only thing that filled his mind. He had been played. And now, it was a race against time. The engine roared to life. tires screeching as William slammed on the gas. Racing back toward Denver International Airport. Red and blue emergency lights flashed in the distance. Sirens howling as police units mobilized. Molly sat in the passenger seat, her body tense, ears pinned forward. She could feel it, the urgency, the danger. The laptop's warning echoed in William's mind. The real message begins now. This was never about luring him to the warehouse. It was about the airport. Another black duffel bag. Another calculated test. The question was this another decoy? Or the real thing? He couldn't risk guessing. As he sped down the freeway, he grabbed his radio. Voice sharp. Urgent. All units. Be advised. Possible explosive device at Terminal B. Vending machine near Gate 17. Evacuate and establish a secure perimeter. A voice crackled back instantly, Sergeant Blake. Copy that. Gardner bomb squad is en route. Terminal lockdown initiated. William's hands tightened around the wheel. His jaw clenched. Make sure no one gets near that bag. Blake hesitated, then said something that sent a cold chill through William's veins. We already have a problem. By the time William pulled into the TSA entrance, the scene outside Terminal B was chaos. Passengers were being herded away, security officers yelling orders. The air was filled with the wailing of alarms, the flashing of emergency lights. But the worst part, a group of travelers stood dangerously close to the vending machine where the duffel bag had been placed. Some were trying to record on their phones. Others just stood frozen in fear. A sinking wave of dread crashed through William. If that bag was real, move, he barked, sprinting toward them. Molly lunged forward, her bark sharp and commanding, startling the nearest bystanders. Security officers rushed in, finally pushing the last few people away. The perimeter was secured, but now they had to face whatever was inside that bag. The bomb squad had arrived, a technician already suiting up. William and Molly held their ground as the robotic drone rolled toward the bag, its mechanical arm reaching out. The terminal was silent, save for the whirring of the machine. The drone's camera zoomed in. The screen flickered, showing the contents of the bag. William held his breath. Then, no explosives detected. A rush of relief mixed with confusion. It was another decoy, but inside the bag was something else. Another envelope. Another message. William's pulse pounded as he stepped forward, taking the sealed letter from the technician. The handwriting was the same, erratic, deliberate. His fingers trembled slightly as he tore it open. And then, he read the words that sent a new wave of fear crashing through him. This was just a rehearsal. You're not ready for what's next. William's stomach dropped. This wasn't over. This was only the beginning. The airport was still buzzing with chaos. But to William, everything felt unnervingly still. The latest message burned in his hands, its meaning echoing in his mind like a ticking clock. This was just a rehearsal. You're not ready for what's next. He exhaled sharply, his pulse still hammering from the chase. Molly sat at his side, her gaze locked onto him, sensing his tension. Sergeant Blake strode up, his expression grim. Another fake device, Blake muttered. Another damn note. He snatched the letter from William's hands, reading the words aloud, his jaw tightening with each syllable. Then he let out a frustrated curse. Who the hell are we dealing with? William shook his head. This wasn't about causing panic. It wasn't about planting bombs. It was a game played by someone calculating, precise, and 2 steps ahead. Someone who wanted them to chase clues instead of catching them. Someone who was testing their every move. William looked down at the evidence, the decoy bag, the transmitter, the wax-sealed letters. Each breadcrumb had led them deeper. Each clue had wasted their time while keeping them on edge. And now, the real question wasn't who. It was when. This isn't over, William muttered, eyes darkening. Whoever this is, they're still watching. He clenched his fists. And next time, they won't be testing us. They'll be playing for real. Across the street from the airport, A man stood in the shadows, watching the flashing lights of emergency vehicles reflect against the glass terminal windows. His hood was pulled low, hiding his face. He lifted a burner phone, typing a single message before pressing send. The screen glowed faintly, displaying just a few words. Phase 1, complete. They're right where we want them. Then, without another glance back, he disappeared into the night. The air in the command center was heavy, the glow of multiple screens casting eerie shadows on the walls. Maps, reports, and images of the mysterious hooded man were scattered across the table. William stood at the center of it all, his hands braced against the desk, staring at the last message they had received. Phase 1, complete. They're right where we want them. Molly sat at his feet, her ears twitching as if she, too, could feel the tension creeping into the room. Sergeant Blake paced nearby, rubbing his temples. "This guy's playing with us," Blake muttered. "Every step of the way. He's been leading us around like puppets. We need to change the game." William nodded, his mind working through every clue, every misdirection. There had to be something they missed. Then, it hit him. "We've been chasing what he's showing us," William said, straightening. "But what if we focus on what he's hiding?" Blake frowned. "What do you mean?" William grabbed the first letter, the one from the vending machine. He held it up to the light, tracing his fingers over the jagged handwriting. "He's careful," William murmured. "But nobody is perfect." He turned to Rachel, the forensic analyst. "Rescan every letter, every envelope, every piece of evidence we have. We need to find something, a fingerprint, a fiber, anything." Rachel nodded and rushed off. Minutes ticked by like hours. Then, "We got something," Rachel called, sprinting back into the room. She slammed a report down in front of them. "A partial fingerprint," she said, breathless. "It's faint, but it's there. And guess what? We ran it through the database." She pointed to the screen. A name appeared, Elias Voss. William's blood ran cold. "Elias Voss?" Blake repeated, eyes narrowing. "You know him?" William clenched his jaw. "I do. The man who vanished. Years ago." Elias Voss had been a brilliant but dangerous mastermind, a former intelligence officer who had gone rogue, operating in the shadows, manipulating events like a chessboard. The world thought he was dead. Clearly, they were wrong. "If Voss is behind this," William said, "then this isn't just a game. It's a test run for something bigger." Blake straightened. "Then we bring the fight to him." The GPS trace on Voss's burner phone led them to a remote location deep in the mountains, an abandoned military bunker long forgotten by the world. William and his team moved in silently, Molly leading the way, her nose twitching as she caught the scent of their target. The bunker was dark and cold, the air thick with dust and silence. Then a soft click. A recording played from hidden speakers. "I knew you'd come, Gardner." William froze, his gun raised, scanning the shadows. "But tell me, are you sure you're ready for the truth?" Then movement. Voss emerged from the shadows, a calm smirk on his face, his hands raised just enough to show he wasn't armed. But William knew better. "You're late," Voss said smoothly. William didn't lower his weapon. "And you're out of time." A silent signal from Blake's team. They had Voss surrounded. For the first time, the smirk faded from Voss's face. "Smart," he admitted, "but not smart enough." Then he moved. But William was faster. Before Voss could reach for the device strapped to his belt, Molly lunged, her powerful frame tackling him to the ground. Voss grunted in shock, struggling beneath her weight. "Good girl," William murmured as he moved in, snapping handcuffs around Voss's wrists. The mastermind had been caught, and his game was over. Back at Denver International Airport, normalcy had slowly returned. The vending machine, the trash can, the abandoned duffel bags all had been removed. But William knew that this wasn't just another case. It had been a message. And today, for the first time, The message had been answered. Molly sat beside him, tail wagging slightly as she nudged his arm. He looked down at her, then exhaled, running a hand over her ears. "We did it, girl." Sergeant Blake approached, a rare smile on his face. "You just put away one of the world's most wanted men. Gardner, take a victory lap." William smirked. "I'll take a nap instead." Blake chuckled. "You earned it." As William looked out over the airport terminal, now buzzing with life once again, he felt a rare sense of peace. The game was over, and for once the good guys had won. Some mysteries test our limits, but in the end, the truth always finds a way to reveal itself. This journey was filled with suspense, danger, and unexpected twists, but justice prevailed. And as always, the best stories are the ones that keep us on the edge of our seats. Rock it if you enjoyed this thrilling adventure. Don't forget to hit that like button, pushpin subscribe to Stories True Way, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another heart-pounding mystery. Speech Balloon, what did you think of this story? Drop a comment below and let us know your theories. Folded Hands, thank you for watching. See you in the next story.